Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to the Thursday, August 3rd, 2023 Public Works Committee meeting. And the first thing we'll do is call to order and roll call and show that Councilmember Schneider is here, as well as myself, Councilmember Swarthout. Councilmember Althauser excused, he's out hiking today. So, and the second order of business is to approve the minutes from the July 6, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's taken care of. All right, Steve Craig, you're up. We have the agreement with Clear Creek Contractors for the Palermo Lagoon Dredging and Maintenance Project, Amendment Number 1. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. And I was all set to do this. All right, you should see my title screen presentation.
Yes, we do.
All right, so good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm here this morning to present Amendment Number 1 for the Palermo Aeration Pond Dredging Project to committee with the request for a recommendation of council approval. The lagoon is located at the end of M Street, adjacent to the Tumwater Municipal Golf Course. The Palermo Lagoon removes contamination from groundwater prior to entering the Deschutes River. The project scope included removing vegetation and accumulated sediments from the pond to restore it to its original design and operational ability. This project is fully funded by an agreement with Washington Department of Transportation up to $175,000. The dewatering of the removed sediment was difficult and required additional time and resources. What we found once we started removing sediment is that the entrained water and the sediment itself was not very accommodating and did not dewater efficiently as scoped out in the project. So it took additional time and resources to effectively dewater that, as well as importing sawdust material, which was used to mix with the material to stabilize it for transport and disposal. Removing the sediment destabilized. In addition, removing the sediment destabilized the saturated embankments of the pond, allowing some sloughing to occur during the maintenance project. So the sediment was removed from the lagoon embankment, sloughing increased. The lower we lowered that sediment level in the pond, the more sloughing occurred, and we actually had to stop removal about 50% of the original design to prevent additional sloughing and protect the integrity of the lagoon. Sufficient levels were restored, allowing effective operation of the aeration pumps and treatment. So the pond is effectively operating and as designed. The other challenge we had, the south end of the lagoon was not accessible without impacting golf operations. So we weren't able to clear that end of the pond, which actually affected one of the 3 aeration pumps. Currently, we have 2 of the 3 aeration pumps in service and operating, meeting all the operational requirements of the pond though. So changes to the scope included additional efforts to dewater and stabilize the sediment for transport and disposal, as well as actually importing quarry spalls that were used to stabilize the embankments areas that were compromised during the project. So this original contract cost was $126,650. The amended contract cost increased by $21,702.80. bringing the total contract cost to $148,352.80 to complete the restoration and operability of the lagoon itself. So with that all being said, if there's any questions, recommended action by staff, request the Public Works Committee, recommend City Council to approve and authorize the mayor to assign amendment number 1 for the Palermo Lagoon Dredging and Maintenance Project in the amount of $21,702.80. Are there any questions?
Okay, do you want to take us off the screen there? Councilor Schneider, do you have any questions for Steve?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
You bet. So I have a couple. Dewatering was kind of a fun term. So thank you for that last screen that explained what dewatering meant. So
Sure.
I can imagine a giant squeezy thing or something. So that puts so the water, so is the project complete now then, as far as once you secured the bank, is it completed or is there more work to be done?
There's one additional task. So for the pond itself, there's actually 6 monuments and transects that are used for monitoring the levels of that sediment. Those are used by geoengineers as part of the mitigation project to monitor the operation and effectiveness of the pond. During the sloughing, it actually took out one of those monuments. So we're currently in negotiations with the city's contracted survey services to restore that and replace that back in its original location and elevation. The work that was performed by Clear Creek contractors, who the agreement was with, is complete, and they've demobilized and are offsite now.
Okay. And then you talked about 2 of the ponds were up and running. So what happens with that third pond then? Is that
The third pump, the aeration pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the pond was designed to operate on 2 aeration pumps to effectively treat the groundwater. The third was a redundant pump for cycling and alternating ability. So we've lost that. But the pond is working as designed and treating appropriately.
Okay. All right.
Future maintenance work will need to be done that we'll be discussing for future maintenance and timetables that will address that south end of the pond.
Yeah, I was just curious how often we have to do this. How is it, just when it gets full, or is it on a regular scheduled maintenance plan?
That's one of our tasks that we identified as part of this project closeout. This is the first time this project has been done since the pond was originally constructed. Over the course of the years and through several flooding events on the golf course, the sediment is accumulated in there. And so that's the need for this project now. We were seeing effects on our aeration pumps and negative effects and impacts to the operation of it. So it was time and needed to be done. As our closeout moves forward, working with geoengineers, Washington State DOT, we're going to try and do our best to proactively schedule additional maintenance in the future, as well as talk about access improvements to make sure that it's restored appropriately.
Okay. Well, thank you. Sounds like a big project that turned a small project turned into a big project, but it sounds like it went well. So it's up and running. So
the end goals were all met. The pond is in operation and provide adequate treatment for that groundwater. So that was the ultimate goal.
That's super. Well, good. All right. Okay, so we do have a recommended action before us. And I'll go and read. Staff requests the Public Works Committee recommend the City Council approve amendment number 1 for the Palermo Lagoon dredging and maintenance project in the amount of $21,702.80. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
It's just you and me. And I'll second. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Okay. Thank you, Steve, for that update. And we will look forward to having clean water in the pond. So we're coming out. So let's see. I'm sorry, I'm babbling this morning. I need more coffee.
Yeah.
So
thank you very much.
You bet. All right. So let's move on to the next agenda item. And we will be hearing from Melissa Jones Wood on the Tumwater Climate Work Program discussion.
Good morning. Can you all see my screen okay?
I can see it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for having me today. We'll be presenting a very interesting new thing for our work with the Climate Mitigation Plan. So as you all know, City Council accepted the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan in 2021. It has greenhouse gas reduction goals of 45% by 2030 and 85% by 2050, all relative to 2015 baselines. Something that's been clarified this year is that implementation of the strategies and actions in the plan can be implemented by one jurisdiction independently, by all 4 jurisdictions together, or by 1 or more jurisdictions together. So we can do things independently, together in part, or together in whole. The topic of my presentation today is this new template jurisdiction work program to help communicate to the public and you all the things that each jurisdiction intends to do. So each of the 4 jurisdictions is planning on releasing this same template work program in the next couple days, actually ideally tomorrow. That will outline our work for whatever time frame. So for us, it's a 2-year. For Olympia, they're reporting on a 1-year. So everyone can understand what's coming down the line in terms of implementation of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. All right. This work program outlines about $24 million of investments being made by the city between 2023 and 2024. So that's everything that every project manager that has an action or a project that they're doing that aligns with the plan, totaling up that total. This has not been a line item that you've seen before, likely, because it's an interesting way of thinking about how we think about all of these other things that are tied to other plans, but lumping them together for the climate plan implementation. And while the impetus of some of these projects might not have been the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, the overlap of their intention and the plan is worth mentioning. So now I realize that $24 million is a very large number, especially for a city as small as Tumwater. But I wanted to highlight that $7.8 million of that $24 million is coming from awarded grants, and almost $550,000 is pending as we wait for decisions from grantors. Of the $24 million, most of the money being invested in the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan implementation is from transportation and land use. One might ask, how is the $12 million I-5 Trosper Capital Project to climate action? Well, one of the strategies in the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan is increasing the efficiency of our transportation system, which explicitly actually lists roundabouts, as well as improving bike and pedestrian infrastructure, which is what this project is doing. So it's its own project in its own right, but it overlaps with the intentions of the plan, so it's included in this work plan. So in the next couple slides, I'll go through sector by sector to highlight some of the work being done in the city over the next 1.5 years, and also stuff that we've been working on for the past 6 or 7, 8 months now. So in terms of building and energy strategies in the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, some of those strategies include reducing energy use in existing residential buildings, actually all building types, reducing energy use in new construction or redevelopment, and converting to cleaner fuel sources. So some of the work in 2023 and 2024 in this jurisdiction work program includes submitting for our SolSmart designation, a national program designed to reduce the solar soft costs for installing residential solar, also adopting new state building code that requires heat pumps in new construction, and continued LED lighting upgrades in city facilities. Pictured here is our LED lighting project that we wrapped up last year at the library. In terms of transportation and land use strategies in the plan, that includes increasing urban density, increasing the efficiency of the transportation system, increasing the adoption of electric vehicles, and increasing the mode share for lower carbon forms of transportation, such as walking, biking, and transit. So some of those projects that are happening in 2023 and 2024 that align with these strategies for the sector includes the Linwood Avenue sidewalk, trail improvements for the Palermo Wellfield Trail, an in-house fleet electrification plan, energy code adoption, which will require EV charging, EV ready and EV capable in new development for multiple kinds, not all types of development, but most, and some projects pending grant funding, like an off-grid solar powered EV charger at Pioneer Park that will also have outlets to help with other e-mobility devices such as electric wheelchairs and electric bikes. And that picture is from us participating in the Harbor Days EV car show with the city's fleet Leaf, the one that we had at the time. Now we have 2. Water and waste strategies in the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan include increasing the efficiency of water and wastewater infrastructure, reducing water consumption, diverting solid waste from landfills, and reducing consumption of carbon-intensive goods and services. You can see pictured here the green buckets that you may have noticed all around City Hall and city facilities that we have in the bathrooms and break rooms, where we're now diverting compost away from city operations in terms of break rooms and bathrooms. So some of that water and waste work for 2023 and 2024 includes our investment grade audit of city facilities, which includes a water audit, composting at city events whenever feasible, whenever I can get enough volunteers, composting at city facilities, and the continued implementation of our compost procurement ordinance that you all passed in January of this year. You may recognize someone in this photo. Agriculture, forests, and prairies sector in the plan includes reducing emissions from agricultural practices, supporting agricultural practices that sequester carbon, and preserving tree canopy and managing forests and prairies to sequester carbon. This is a picture from this year's Earth Day. So this year and next year, we're working on updating those 3 different sections of code that relate to trees. We're inventorying every tree on city property and coming up with a maintenance plan and budget. And we're continuing our work with the Habitat Conservation Plan and Program. I think this sector is a really good example of things that aren't, we might not think are part of the plan, but are. So they have actions. So working on prairie conservation, we have a much bigger project that we're working on for the Habitat Conservation Plan. Our urban forestry management plan gets in way more depth about the way that we approach forests and urban forests than the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, but together they combine and become part of this jurisdiction work program. The last sector in the plan is the cross-cutting. So those are things that don't fit in just one grouping. They kind of transcend groupings, or they're applied to everything. Those are mostly focused on advocacy, both within the general public and with the legislature. And some of that work in 2023 and 2024 includes the city sustainability webpage, which we've been doing a lot of work on recently. We're trying to improve and increase the information available to the general public on a number of different sustainability topics. Also working on internships and guest lectures, and the city's legislative agenda. So with that, your packet has a nice long document with every single one of these projects that total up to be that $24 million. So I'm happy to answer your questions. I'll note, though, that some of those projects in this jurisdiction work program, I am the project manager for, some I am not. So I'll do my best to answer your questions. If you're asking questions specifically about projects that I'm not the project manager for, I'll do my best. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alyssa. So Councilmember Schneider, do you have some questions for her?
I do. I have 2. I have one comment. Nice picture of you, Eileen. I believe that was Falls Fest. So nice job on that. So Alyssa, I do have 2 questions for you. We keep talking about our canopy on our goals for 2050, but now with the new law passed with the wildfire buffer zone, how is that going to affect those goals?
Yeah, it likely may. Community development is leading the charge on understanding that wild and urban interface code and how it's going to affect not only our existing plan, but how it affects the progress that I think we were making on revising those codes. They would be the best people to ask, especially Al, our building official. They're keeping me in the loop. Right now, we're having conversations with outside agencies like DNR and Fish and Wildlife and Ecology to kind of try to understand it more, because it's quite a lengthy document that is a little confusing, and we want to make sure that we're getting it right. I know the city attorney is actually leading a meeting in the next couple of weeks about that.
Okay, thank you for that. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know we have the EV chargers on city property, City Hall. And I believe at the time I asked you about those, that was free of charge to the public for like 2 years. So when we install those same chargers down at Pioneer Park, are we going to do that 2-year leeway as well?
So I think that we are doing them free at City Hall until the end of 2026, beginning of 2027. Okay. At Pioneer Park, if it is funded, so this is one of those grant applications that I'm waiting to hear back on from Department of Commerce. We did commit in the grant that they would be provided free, period. This one would be fully funded. There's like a 10% match of very little money to install these. These would be off-grid and solar powered, so we wouldn't have an electricity bill recurring from it. Kind of once we put them on the ground, they'll be good to go and they'll kind of power themselves.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the report. It was interesting when everything was combined, because it's like, wow, you did a lot. And then I realized that the other projects that are in there too, that we can factor in that address this issue as well. So it's a different way to look at it. And I appreciate looking at it this way, because it feels like we're doing when you're chipping away at the goals, to keep that in perspective, that work is being done, that we are addressing things like this. So in our projects and all, as far as dealing with climate, those climate questions that we need to ask as well. So I'll have to check out the sustainability webpage. I haven't been there yet. I just discovered we have a new webpage. So, let's see. I wrote some other things down. So I know this is just a small thing, trying to get people to recycle. That like at our events, like the Brew Fest or anything like that, the bigger ones, it might be a challenge to get people to recycle. I'm thinking what might be there. It might be a little bit easier because it maybe should just be two things. So, like waste, and then what goes to compost, and then what goes to landfill. But have you been looking at that event this time?
Yes, I actually just put out a call for volunteers earlier this week. I have 3 so far, including myself. So if anyone wants to be a compost and recycling attendant at Brewfest, we have a couple shifts open. We are trying to make sure we're thinking about having 3 designated locations, and I have those 3 volunteers so far.
Okay.
But we can
That's
always
good
use
to know.
more so people can get breaks.
You bet. I plan to be there, so I will. The 19th, there's a lot going on that day. I was surprised how many different things are happening. Everybody's events seem to be on the 19th this year. So, but yeah, I think that would be really positive to be able to have something there, because people expect it. When you go places now, they do expect at least there's a recycle or a regular trash can. So, yeah, it's nice that we're able to provide that. And let's see, just checking to see if there's anything else that I wrote a note down for. Thank you. And then the DNR, I thank you, Councilmember Schneider, for bringing that up, because that is going to be an interesting thing to follow up on. Good intentions, sometimes good intentions and how that actually hits the cities when it is put into play is interesting. So when the legislature, puts things in law like that. So I appreciate the work that's being done on that. So let's see. I don't know. Is there anything else? Do we have any other questions? Anything else that we have for Alyssa? And let's see. Will this be going to? Are we doing this in a work session as well, or does it need? I wasn't sure what the direction was with this.
We can, if you'd like it to be. I just wanted to make sure, and Dan wanted to make sure that you all were briefed before this went out to the general public. The other
Okay.
jurisdictions and us are doing one big press release and putting it up on TRPC's website tomorrow, so that everyone can look at all 4 jurisdictions' work plans and look at them in the same way with the same information.
Oh, perfect. Well, appreciate that very much. Yeah, that we're a united front, and that work is being done. So I appreciate getting the information out there to be able to celebrate the things that have already been accomplished and the plans to move forward. So that's really awesome. All right. Well, goodness, I think we're at the end of our agenda here. So do we have any other additional items? I was just curious how, I haven't been up I-5. Did we reopen the exit there at Trosper? Is that now open again?
It is open. I would have to confirm whether or not the northbound on-ramp is open, but I do know that the off-ramp is open. The northbound on-ramp was delayed for, I can't remember exactly why, but it wasn't open at the same time as the off-ramp. So the off-ramp as a minimum is open. The on-ramp may or may not be, but there is the other on-ramp on the other side. You just have to change your routing. So
Okay, I appreciate that.
and honestly, they got done early. And
Mhm.
the work they've been doing is fantastic.
Yeah, I was surprised going down Capitol, how much has already been, that, there were giant holes in that, how quickly they were able to get those filled and repaved. That was amazing. So
Yeah, they have working days ends up being almost 2 years when you actually count working days and get rid of weekends. And people, it sounds like a long time, but for the scope of this work, it's not. And so they are moving along pretty fast. And we were fortunate with the contractor that they got, because they actually have quite a bit more staff than the entire city has. It's a pretty large company, and their capacity and abilities are hard to match regionally. So
That's really good. Yeah, we're all over it because I see like going up Tumwater Hill that we're on that place. I'm trying to think of the road is Crosby that goes up the hill that we're doing something there. I noticed. And then also on R.W. Johnson, there's somebody drilling. So I didn't think that was our project, but the one on Tumwater on Crosby should be ours, right? Is that we're working on that one?
it is, that's part of our pavement maintenance project this summer, and we're actually all over the city for those. Obviously, if you've driven by City Hall, we're now in full construction mode on Israel Road. We're working on design for the ops facility, trying to get design for the Southeast Reservoir going. Our department, our capital program is unbelievably busy right now, and it's a good thing because we're getting projects done that we've committed to residents that we'd get done. And
yeah, it's a busy summer. Well, thank you guys for all the work and everybody overseeing all this. And it's a huge project for your team. And so I appreciate all the work that's being done. So,
thanks.
all right. Well, thank
I'll
you for the
relay it to
update on it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, this is so clunky in Zoom. So sorry. You go first.
I was just going to say, I'll relay it to the folks that are doing the real work. I just get to talk about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It changes every day. So I appreciate all the effort in this. So, all right. Well, if we don't have any other additional items, then I will call the Thursday, August 3rd, 2023 Public Works Committee adjourned. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.